As the World Championship concludes, it turns out that there was actually quite a small number of champions played this year relative to the overall pool. Only 50.8% of all the champions in the game were played this year throughout the tournament, which all in all leaves a full 59 champions that were completely unplayed, as well as 20 or so champions who were only played once or twice across a total of 78 games, while 70% of the total picks and bans went to the most popular 16 champions. As we break down the most underplayed champions at Worlds, we will not be looking at any champions who were played in more than 2 or 3 games, while also not looking at champions that, although may not have seen much play, they were heavily banned, such as Alistar, and so they weren't played for that reason. And let's jump right into it. Starting with number 5, we have Rammus, and he's only solo on this list since he was actually played twice, so we did get to see him a little bit in the tournament, albeit not much. Rammus is a jungler that's incredibly gank heavy and just dominates the early game, while also not losing to strong early pressure such as Lee Sin. He works great when your team plays powerful lanes, and as we saw in the 2 games that he was played, he can be quite strong versus the right team comps and help your laners run away with the game while still being a strong tanky presence. One thing Rammus suffers from is a lack of clear speed, which is actually a big part of the jungle in competitive play, since ganks are so difficult to pull off due to the overall communication teams use to track junglers and avoid ganks, as well as through team warding and passive play. This often results in a farm fest jungle early game with just 1 or 2 potential gank opportunities, so Rammus can fall behind quite quickly if you can't make the most of those opportunities due to his low clear speed. Next, on to number 4, we have Aatrox. Aatrox was an incredible pick for SK Gaming's Freddy122, who drew a ban from it every single game that he played in, leaving Aatrox at a total of 0 picks throughout the tournament. Aatrox is quite similar to the semi-tanky massive DPS top lane bruiser that completely dominated the tournament, and he can hold his own versus the common ranged AP top laners and can be a great split pusher and teamfighting threat. Now, he could have been much higher on this list if it wasn't for the lackluster reason that he wasn't played, which frankly is just because no one knows how. Freddy is by far the best Aatrox in the world, and his overall play with him from the EU LCS has shown that Aatrox can definitely succeed in this meta. It's really surprising to me that no one decided to learn Aatrox, since versus any team other than SK, it would have been considered pretty much a troll pick that could have easily taken teams off guard if practiced well, and picked at the proper times too to completely destroy certain team comps or lanes. And with the bronze medal we have Ziggs. In an assassin-dominated metagame of the tournament, you would expect anti-assassin poke champs to do quite well, which is true as seen by the success of Orianna and Jace throughout the tournament. Ziggs brings great wave clear, amazing siege, while also having some crowd control and some burst damage that can be used to melt teamfights and even catch out carries. His overall damage is solid and could have accomplished just about the same thing as what some teams did with other champions, but the problem with Ziggs is that although he does well versus melee assassins, he has trouble versus mage-oriented assassins, such as Syndra and Ahri, who have much more kill pressure overall, while still having similar wave clear and great sieging too. They sacrifice some siege and poke potential for kill pressure and long-range crowd control, something that the sieging meta has heavily shifted to. Instead of clearing waves and poking down the tower, that doesn't work as well now since every team being played has amazing wave clear, so instead teams will just try to land crowd control and either pick off or force out teams from the tower, to eventually take it down after a small skirmish or tower dive, something that Ziggs is okay at, but definitely not the best, and so he wasn't played that much. Next, taking home the silver medal, we have Fiddlesticks. Insec held onto this pick until the semi-finals, but the one game where he played Fiddlesticks showed how truly game-changing of a pick it was for his team. Royal Club was able to use Fiddlesticks to completely catch OMG off guard and pull off an incredible comeback, largely due to some amazing Fiddlesticks ultimates that are in reality not that difficult to set up, and of course can completely destroy teamfights, even when behind. Insec held on to this secret pick for quite a long time, and if more people were aware of it, they may have picked it up as well, since it did show to be pretty much the game-deciding champion in the game it was played, despite a poor early game from his team as a whole. However, Fiddlesticks can suffer versus strong early jungle pressure versus champions like Lee Sin, so it's not something that can really be blind picked and often has to be banned around in order to be played. And lastly, bringing home the gold medal for the most underplayed champion at Worlds this year, we have Nunu. Nunu had an incredible showing in the NA LCS playoffs and drew permabans from multiple teams, such as TSM and Curse, due to his overall objective control power. Nunu has the potential to be a great pick since he's tanky enough to not suffer early versus high early pressure junglers such as Lee Sin, while still having great objective control and can lead to some great plays such as 18-minute Barons and tons of free dragons, while also buffing up the 80 carries in a tournament filled with 80 carry superstar players. I really expected Nunu to be played a ton throughout the tournament after seeing the NALCS playoffs, but instead the meta shifted to gank heavy junglers that can snowball the game really hard with just 1 or 2 kills, such as Lee Sin, Kha'Zix, and Rengar. Nunu doesn't have the best ganks, and while although he can do great in a protect the 80 carry comp as we saw a ton of in the NALCS playoffs, he can struggle in comps that do not make great use of his kit, such as the more popular assassin oriented or siege comps that were the main meta played throughout the tournament. And so, those were my top 5 picks for the most underplayed champions at Worlds this year. It was a pretty difficult list to make since I did want to keep it to only 5 champions, so let me know what other champions you thought were underplayed in the tournament, and why, in the comments below. Anyways, my name is Jeremy, and that's it for my video on the top 5 underplayed champions at Worlds. Be sure to stay connected at facebook.com/gamingcurios, drop a like, share this video, and make sure to subscribe for some more awesome content in the future. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.